Hello? Can you hear me? We can't hear the meeting. The audio is not working.
Right there, you gotta get right over here, maybe.
There you go.
Is that working now?
I can hear you now.
That's working. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so for all those listening, the only thing we've gone over is just to approve the meeting minutes from the last two meetings. And we did the first one and now we're on the second one of the two meetings. So on the conditions that we approved was number 10, did we include number 10? That no topsoil or arable subsoil to be exported until like fully excavated? I can't remember. Yeah. I know we went over we adjusted a lot of things on that, but to simplify it. Right. And it just surprised me that that was included.
Hi, it's Judy. That one was included.
Okay. I think there was a lot going on and, you know, we probably could have simplified it by not including this, but I don't know that it hurts anything. So if it's in, and it's fine, because we're just approving meeting minutes, not changing policy, so. Yeah, I think we have to reflect. Thank you, Judy. Okay, so with that being said, I don't have any.
If everyone else is okay with it, we need a motion to accept it.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of March 31st special meeting, as written.
A second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any correspondence? I don't know if we have any. I guess not. Okay. Unfinished business. The 81 IPR LLC 81 Industrial Park Road excavation permit annual review. I'll get it out. So everybody should have gotten a copy of this from Boundaries. We haven't had any negative feedback from town engineering on this at all.
No, for the record, I did speak with John Police. I thought he would be here tonight. He actually submitted this prior to last month's meeting. And chose not to have it put on that agenda just because you had so many other things going on that agenda. I did expect that he was gonna be here tonight to speak to this one. I'm not sure why he wasn't here. I did let town engineering know that it was submitted. There is a plan. I think you guys probably saw there are full plan sheets here if anybody wanted to just review the topo. This isn't actually a renewal, it's just the annual. There was a condition of the original, you guys approved a zoning permit and an earth excavation permit for this back in 2024. So there was a actual, condition of approval under, I believe it's the current regulations. The old regulations, it was section O, now it's section J, I believe, in your current regulations for an annual review, which kind of requires just if there are more than 5,000, I believe, cubic yards of material removed from the site, that they provide an updated topo. They can also provide some photos. There are colored photos. I think you guys got sent out kind of
We get the
black and white versions. If you want to pass around the color versions,
Okay.
that he did provide as well.
Take a look.
of the site, since, Mr. Felice isn't here to really speak to it, I don't know if he didn't really provide any other information as to how much material has been removed or if there are any particular issues.
Pictures.
Once you guys have had a chance to take a look, I can follow up with town engineering and see if they, because he did indicate to me that when he came in, he was gonna stop, grab a copy of the topo and, just take a look and see if there was anything of any concern, for him anyway, in regards to, anything on site, but, I don't believe there was anything that was striking, but I can follow up with Matt and find out.
Yeah, has he reviewed anything or has he not reviewed anything?
Well, that's what I'm not,
Just doesn't have any comment.
right, that's what I'm not sure of. I don't think, usually if he did do a full review, he would, even if he didn't have comments, he would send something saying that he doesn't have any concerns or anything like that, so. That's why I said, what I can do is I'll follow up just to confirm that, he did have a chance to grab it and take a look. Because he mentioned to me that he was gonna, he was coming in the next day to grab a copy, but he may have just forgotten when he popped in to get it.
Okay. January
January.
2025, but it looks like the plan, it doesn't look like, it's like, it's not a current condition plan. It's still the same proposed plan. Which is fine.
Days of operation is 7:30. AM, 5, operation to 5.
No. You did it on Saturday. So I think you're progressing and doing all right. Anyone have any concerns or comments on it?
I don't have any comments or concerns, but, this is our first renewal, right? So,
But you've seen exactly.
Right, this is the first annual.
yeah. So will we make a motion to approve it or,
Yeah,
or
we'd have
not
to,
approve it? I mean,
we'd have to make a motion to approve.
Right, I don't know if it actually requires any type of action,
that's.
quite honestly,
that's
because
what
it's
I
not,
was- yeah.
it's not an approval, it's not it's just an annual, because I remember when we were going through the process of creating the regulation, it wasn't, it's more of an annual review.
Yeah, right.
It's just like, it's more of an acknowledgement that it's been completed, I guess, more than anything else.
All right. Should town, when we get these reviews, should town engineering pipe in on any of this if they,
I would think, because the way that the regulation, if you review, the way that section J. Because part of, you were kind of in the middle of drafting your, or finalizing your regulations, I believe, during this process. So it was like review of special permit. So it's J, so it says, above, special permit for excavation shall be subject to an annual compliance review and renewal process. And application for the annual renewal shall be submitted to the zoning enforcement officer technically it says by November first of each year for the following year. Annual reviews shall occur between January and March following the first full year of the permit. Information required for review shall include but not be limited to updated survey depicting contours or existing spot elevations as accepted by the town engineer. Proposed contours, photographs of the site, water quality or noise data if requested by the commission. Operators that have hauled less than 5,000 cubic yards over the course of the year or less than 20% of the total volume approved for a phase may submit a letter from their engineer or surveyor indicating this fact in lieu of a new survey. The commission may impose additional conditions or modifications on the original permit which appear necessary or desirable based on the history of the operation.
So Jim, here's a question for you. I believe this application in January of 2024? So would this be under the new regulation or would it be under the old regulation, which is slightly
So
different?
quite honestly, if it was January 2024, my understanding of how you guys wanted to proceed with this was that you wanted it to be a full year. You didn't want it like, so it would be, at least you didn't want it to have to be partial years. So it would almost be like the review would be more than a year away.
Yeah.
So that you wouldn't end up getting ones that were,
Yeah.
like, this was almost too soon. Since you just approved it almost just barely a year ago.
We approved it January 8th, 2024, right here.
Yeah, I mean, the application was dated, renewal date of origin approval.
Approved the excavation.
Yeah, so I think it's been just over a full year. But those newer regulations were adopted after the ones that you just read, where it moved from section O to section
Right.
J. Does it still fall under section O? Because that was in place when.
Because that was what the special permit was.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that much different. I mean, they didn't haul less than 100 yards, which is what the big difference is.
Right,
So it still applies.
but it still applies.
But if they don't haul 5,000 yards in the next year, it would be advantageous to have the new regulation apply.
Right.
I don't know how that works. Either way, at this point, I don't see anything that's an issue with this review at all. I don't see anything that's an issue. It looks like they're working. There's definitely,
And they kept
the
this.
big rock is getting smaller.
I mean, it would be a question, I guess, suppose, as to whether or not finding out, because I could find out from, Mr. Felice how much they did haul. If
Yeah, I
they,
didn't see
if they
anything.
hauled less than 5,000, you could, in theory, I suppose. The only thing is, in order to add a condition, I believe, a new condition onto the special permit, I believe you have to hold a public hearing.
It would be a more lenient condition.
It would, but I believe you have to hold a public hearing in order to add a condition.
All right, so here's something to note going forward. We have to look at the conditions of the actual individual application for each one of these. So we should have those ready when we review these and the conditions of the individual application, because just using current regulations might be a different. There's something to know going forward. I think this is an easy one and we don't have to worry, we don't have to worry about that, but going forward, some of these may be more complicated than others.
Yeah, definitely. So for the next one of these that we got, it'd be nice to pull out the conditions for the excavation. Is that something that we can get Judy, would you be able to do that, or who would do that?
One meeting and come to the second meeting, and the information.
Yeah,
No, it could just be included in the,
included in the.
yeah, when the renewal comes in, pull the approval. And just include that
Included.
with this package.
Okay,
That should be to our awareness. I mean, I have all this stuff saved too. I save all the stuff from every meeting into a monthly folder. So I could pull it too, but I mean, you know, we have resources.
I need a huge filing cabinet.
Digital, I don't save the paper. Okay, yeah, just to note moving forward.
So, you know, everything's okay with this, so just move forward. No one's gonna be issues.
No, and I mean, they have inspections on the site too, under their conditions, so I assume if anything were a problem, we would have heard, or the CEO would have heard.
Yeah. Fine. Okay,
So I think they're understanding.
good standing. So let's move on. Do we need to notify them? Boundaries at least?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there should be some kind of follow-up, whether it's a letter to the applicant stating that their renewal has been reviewed and there's no questions or issues. I mean, we should follow up with something, right?
We can do that, or, I mean. If you. It all depends on how you wanna handle this, you can leave it. On the agenda, only because police hasn't, I mean, he didn't really come here and even tell you what they were doing on site.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we just have these photos. yeah.
All you have is photos and a plan that you don't know exactly what it's of. You can leave it. And
So maybe we should ask them to come in and go over.
we can also,
Or send them-
follow up with town engineering, and I can say, hey, did you have a chance to take a look at this and just see if there were any issues?
Okay,
And then that way, you are just covering all of our bases. And then if everything's fine next month, everything's fine.
yeah.
And at the same time, we can pull the conditions just to review them. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing due diligence and, taking a look at those things.
Yeah.
Nothing to do on business at all.
No.
No, I mean, it's not, they're stopping operations until you.
All right, well, I'll make a motion to continue the review of the permit, excavation permit renewal for 81 IPR LLC until next month.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. All right. Discussion regarding Gibson Hill Campground, 177 Gibson Hill Road.
Hi, can I just ask a question? I know that Jason made the motion. Can you tell me who seconded it? Because it wasn't looking at you, the owl.
Steve did,
Steve did. And all in favor?
yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good evening. I think we heard reference to Gibson Hill Campground.
Yes.
Perfect. I'm Cody. Alex is here as well from Happy Grounds. We just acquired what was last known as Last Green Valley Campground on Gibson Hill Road and renaming it back to its original Gibson Hill. Here today to talk about, our improvements towards the park and talk about what we hope that we can accomplish with your help over the next several months.
Okay.
We understand from our perspective that there may have been some concerns with the way the campground was run in the past. So wanted to put ourselves out here to make sure that we are able to answer any questions you have. We own and manage about 9 campgrounds in the Northeast right now. So we're very familiar with how to operate a campground compliantly and well. So we wanted to open up and make sure that we had the opportunity to answer any questions or concerns that the town might have regarding the campground.
I don't have any, but you are following our regulations for when it opens and when it closes.
Yes.
On an annual basis, so spring opening, fall closing, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah. Not daily, not.
No,
Daily,
yeah, yearly.
Right, I guess, this is, I guess, my question. I had received a phone call from, I want to say her name was Rachel
Taylor.
Taylor, okay.
Yep.
And, the question that she had posed to me, because I guess she had spoken with maybe, someone in one of our zoning enforcement officers. And, they had directed her to apply for a special permit application. Because my understanding was, that you were looking to possibly do what, possibly do something more in the lines of doing some winter camping or having some sites be open during the winter time. Which, my conversation with her was that it didn't make sense to me anyway to apply for a special permit for that, only because there were specific regulations that prevented the commission from allowing, or from, they couldn't approve that because there were regulations that specifically said they couldn't. So what I had suggested was that that you kind of come to them and talk with them a little bit about what you may perceive or what you think you may want to do in the future, in regards to possibly doing something like that, and whether or not that would be something that the commission may be open to, or how that might happen. I've spoken with other towns that I work in, within our region, that do have some campgrounds that apparently do have some sites that are open in the winter time, on a limited basis for different uses. So I'm not sure exactly how they operate or what they're used for, but I don't know if that's a conversation that you want to have now with the commission, or if that's something that you that's way further down the road, or.
Well, I appreciate that. That is absolutely something that we'd like to discuss. I know, I mean, clearly the campground used to be open seasonally or year round. I mean, there's clearly that campground was built with the intention of year round camping. The water lines are buried at a lot of the sites. It's our understanding that it was at some point operating in the winter, and it was, it's shut down in that proceeding at some point. We would love to reopen that conversation and see what we can do. It is a big part of our business model to operate year round. There is a ton of demand for it. We've noticed at all of our campgrounds, there's a lot of demand for the winter camping. It's something we've turned on at most of the parks that we own and operate with a lot of success. I know that generally speaking, it may not be your particular concern, but one of the main concerns that we've had in the past with the townships is residency. They don't want the ability for people that are camping there to establish residency, have children going to school, and things like that. And that's something that we've been able to very, very effectively conquer at our other campgrounds. So I'd be interested to understand what you do need from us and how we can meet with you in the middle and find a way to help us optimize the business model while also remaining compliant with what the town needs and moving forward with a strong relationship between the two of us.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. We don't want year-round residents in the campground. And certainly don't want children attending our schools from the campground, because that's gonna increase our cost. So, if you can come up with some sort of proposal, I think the board might be interested in seeing what you have planned. And I think we'd like to hear it. You have
Yeah.
anything-
Yeah, I mean, we have some boilerplate stuff that, I mean, I could easily kind of tell you what our high level strategy is and provide something more in detail if you'd like. But generally speaking, we would operate we would operate this in 2 separate seasons, right? So they would have 2 separate seasonal contracts, one for the summer, one for the winter. So they're already establishing short-term stays, their vacation stays effectively. They have to have a second or a permanent residence. They cannot receive mail at the campground. They cannot register their vehicles at the campground. They cannot in any way associate the campground with a permanent residence. That's not permitted. Enrolling their child in school, not permitted. It's a grounds for immediate dismissal from the park. So by doing just that, those steps alone have eliminated a lot of the problems that we've had at other campgrounds when we've taken them over. Because full transparency, that was issues for a lot of the parks that we took over, right? People established a full-time residency and it was an issue. So we went in, we cleaned it up, and we've put it in 2 very separate categories. We're open to other options as well to try to minimize that. But we've had, I mean, resounding success at our other parks with operating winter camping without it resulting in full-time residents.
So in order for anything like this to move forward, it would require a change to our zoning reg. And that doesn't happen overnight, just so that you're aware. And it would require a public hearing. And a lot of interest from other people, I'm sure, in town.
All right, so it would basically require a text amendment to the current zoning regulations. I'm gonna guess that you don't operate another campground in Connecticut that way, by any chance?
The only one that we operate that is not year-round is also in Connecticut.
That is not year-round, is also in Connecticut, okay. Because basically what would need to happen is, you would need to come up with some type of text language that you would need to propose, as a text amendment, to the regulations, through an application to the commission that would then go through the public hearing process. That the commission would then I guess, weigh in on. I don't know of. I'd have to take a look. I know that the one town that in particular that I know of that I was talking was the town of Ashford, but I don't think they do it to that high of a degree. I think it was just in particular sites, and some of them were used just for like construction companies and stuff like that, where in particular sites might be open for guys who may work for construction companies that just use that one site just because they were working on jobs in the area or something like that. So it wasn't like the whole campground or, so it may take a little bit of research on your end to try to find something or some language somewhere that may be able to be used. But what we could do is maybe set up some kind of a meeting offline to discuss. And maybe the zoning enforcement officer, who also has experience, may have other ideas or may know of other places where you might be able to find that type of information.
No, that's extremely helpful. I appreciate such a robust response. I mean, we knew coming into it would be not flip a switch and turn on winter camping. I don't want to set the expectation that's what we thought from you all, but as much as I can, I want to try to put you all at ease about what we do. And again, we kind of know what we inherited here. We made a lot of changes to the park already. If you've gone by or seen it, there's been a lot of upgrades and a lot of changes, and we're going to continue to improve the park. But if we did do winter operation, I want to just on the record, let you know, we would never intend to run the whole park. I think that from a staffing perspective and infrastructure perspective, it doesn't make sense. I would be more a handful of sites, a fraction of the park, just enough to justify hiring the staff, keeping staff on year round, and not having to do the turnover, the seasonal rehires, and things of that nature. So it's more about creating a baseline of stable industry for us, and just not having the overhead cost. But it is a great start. Honestly, I think that we kind of have this dialogue already, and we can set up an offline meeting, bring you to the park, kind of explain where we're trying to go with it. Be very happy to open that dialogue with you.
Well, you're doing a good job starting with talking to us tonight, because none of the previous owners of that property have ever gotten this far with us. They've never attempted it. They've just pushed regulations and pushed boundaries, and you coming forward at this early stage is very welcome. So thank you.
We understand that the most important part of this business is the community relationship. You know, we can bring tourism in, we can bring guests in, but if the relationship with the local community isn't strong, we're not going to be successful, or at least not as successful as we could be. So we want a strong partnership with you guys, and I'm glad that we can get off to the right foot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question?
No.
Is it okay if I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Sure, this is Lynn Cooper. I'm the first selectman in Sterling. Been around this situation for a little while. And I was interested in your comment about no children in school. And you said you made sure that no children went to school from the campground. Did I understand you correctly?
Yep.
Does that mean that the school bus didn't stop there, or did the parents didn't take the children? Or they simply weren't allowed to have either?
Neither. We know, I mean, there should be no school bus. I mean, that's a dead red flag, right? If school bus shows up, that camper's out, right? So that's an easy one. It is a little bit harder if they bring their kid to school, but we generally they call and say, hey, this address was used to register enroll this student in school, and we would then shut it down. Because it's not zoned for residential, right? So it should be a red flag on the school district if someone tries to skirt our regulation as well.
And I just, if we try to get this thing set up, at any rate, in any way, obviously we want to settle that issue right off the bat, because as you say, that's, the school just can't afford it, and the town does not want that, so. If you must have found a way to do this in other states, you must simply screen the applicants fairly closely, and they just either, they don't have children, or they homeschool them or something.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to be as straight up as I can with you all, because I think it's just the best way to handle business. But for the most part, you know, this particular park, I don't envision it being much of a kids' campground in the first place anyway. The amenities that we're looking to add, it's already got a stage in it. It's already gearing more towards an adult theme. We probably are going to lean more into that. So I think we're going to have a less inherent issues with, you know, young children. But I also don't want to put ourselves in a situation where, you know, any kind of flags that pop up. Again, mail is a big one. When people start getting mail to the property, Amazon is one thing that they, you know, send a package. But when I start seeing parcels of mail, they register their address, right? It's registered somewhere. That's where someone thinks they live there. So that's always a huge red flag. It starts the conversation right away. We have an entire team that's dedicated to handling our reservations, our inbound sales, where they go through the vetting process, background checks with our residents or the campers, and make sure that none of them are going to be adverse to the culture we're trying to cultivate. And once we have a good baseline, for the most part, the campgrounds will police themselves too. Once you get a good community, they don't want someone coming in that's going to mess it up and ruin it for the rest of them. So they will sell someone out pretty quick if they're putting us in a bad spot.
I'm good.
All right. Anybody have anything?
What states do you have campgrounds in besides Connecticut?
Right now, we're in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and New York, as well as Connecticut.
Okay, thank you.
Very well.
You have a lot of winter activities around these campgrounds that you have operating now?
Yes, quite a bit, actually.
Skiing,
I'm sorry.
skiing such, ice fishing or snowmobiling, which is not a lot of that here.
No, you're right on point. I mean, it all depends on the park, right? All the what's around for local attraction is going to drive your clientele. But you know, we have a couple of parks in Massachusetts specifically that are really, yeah, we have one that's basically a seasonal park, and it's very close knit, very tight community. They have a lot of ATV enthusiasts there. There's an ATV area around the corner, so we have a great community there. We have another park in Massachusetts that effectively runs 100% or about 80% of the campground year round. It's just well set up. We do water delivery, and we're able to do a lot of short-term stays. That's worked out really well, and everyone's on a month-to-month basis there, or they were until we started doing our current process. So that's worked out really well. We turned on winter camping this past year at a park in New Hampshire that historically had never had it before. We started it there, and we had a resounding amount of demand for it. We were full. We had to turn people away in the winter, which was pretty impressive. And they have that was a draw for skiing and off-road snowmobile.
No, I don't, I mean, it sounds like they're well aware of the, issues that were in the past and they're working to resolve it, so.
Yeah.
That's, a plus in my book, and then if they wanna look at making an adjustment, so. I would be open to making an adjustment if it were with the right operators and it didn't negatively affect the other parks in town.
Exactly.
So,
That's
we have to
the thing
consider
we
that
gotta
also.
think about. Yeah,
because with a text amendment applies to everybody.
exactly.
We don't
Well,
want
that was gonna be my next question, if you don't mind my bringing it up. So I'm sorry, the gentleman in the red shirt, I didn't catch your name and I apologize, but I see what you're saying is probably a long-term solution to our request, right? Like that is, we go through this process, we establish that this is a way that we can operate the campground. And it's just, that's how we get zoned, right? Is there a way? Is it a special permit? Is there some kind of way that we can kind of demo this out with you this year as well? Proof of concept for what we're trying to do, earn the trust, get us the ability to kind of staff it year round and build our base as best we could. And then while we're working on this zoning regulation.
It's an interesting idea, special permit for a year. Something to think about. I don't know how it would work.
Thing is, I think you still have to have, even though it's a special permit, I think your special permit still has to allow for it somehow. Like, because your regulations currently, even under special
Yeah.
permit.
It's not like a variance. It's not like a variance.
Well, see, there's two parts to this, I guess. One is, I don't know exactly what. Like, you originally stated that you believe there was winter camping there previously. So the question is whether that winter camping that occurred there previously was legal or not legal.
I can see illegal.
Now, if it was legally done there, then there may be an argument that it was, it could be,
Yeah.
it could be considered pre-existing and could be grandfathered. But if it was not legally done, because I know there were lawsuits involved and everything else, and I'm not an attorney, so I can't say whether it was legally done. Then there may be other avenues that it could happen, and that may be why the zoning enforcement officer thought you could just go in with a special permit and try to get something done that way, but the way that your special permit is written, I can't see how you can just have a special permit that says, oh, just ignore the fact that your regulation says one thing,
Yeah.
and you can do something else. So
does this body have the ability to grant a variance on the bylaws?
No, it does not. Only the zoning board of
Zoning Board of
appeals does,
Yeah.
and I don't. I don't know if something like this, unlike Massachusetts, in Connecticut, in theory, variances are not supposed to be very easily granted. And they're supposed to be something that's unique. Usually something unique that is about the property that is physical, not something that is economical in nature that's associated with it. So I'm not sure if a variance could be granted in this particular situation.
At the end of the day, we want to work with you. Like that's where we're coming from, right? We do our best to do a bunch of research when we come into a new acquisition like this. It's been hinted at in the background. I've heard, I can hear it. We understand what was there before. We understand who owned it before. We understand the taste that probably leaves in your mouth, right? So trust is a big part of this game, and earning that is going to be, a step in the process. Whatever we can do to try to alleviate some of those stress points, we want to accommodate. But I want to be on record as saying, winter camping is a big part of our business model, and any way that we can try to work with you to make that happen, we have found that it has a net positive for the communities that it's in, and we're happy to provide references to those as well. I understand this may not all be on this board to decide, but whatever we can do to kind of help alleviate any pressure or make things a little bit more palatable, we're willing to have that discussion.
I think some research is gonna have to be done to see if what option is available, because the regulations have been written to specifically avoid this.
Understand?
So, to rewrite it it's a difficult situation at this point.
A little risky on your end.
But that doesn't mean that, there isn't, a way somewhere to get around it, like a variance would be what I would think, but like Jim said, those are typically a physically limiting issue that needs a way around it. Doesn't really fall into that, but that doesn't mean that somebody with more experience than me could
Right, it doesn't mean
find
they,
a loophole or something that would allow
Jason,
a
how far
possibility.
back does that campground go? Like date wise? Was it in existent pre-zoning?
oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So is it possible that those waterways were put in pre-zoning? And would that be a
No
grandfather?
idea. Probably not even any way to find out, because they probably weren't even permits for it, so. Yeah, no, I don't think there's any way to track that. Without, receipts from whoever did the work, which we would never see.
Hmm.
Well, sounds like I have some work to do.
But thank you for coming in and talking, or not coming in, but thank you for joining us this evening and talking to us and setting the tone. I think it's in a very good direction. We appreciate that.
And we appreciate you guys as well. Again, knowing what you must have been going through the past several years, it's I'm sure it's a breath of fresh air to have someone else in there. And we're happy to help as much as you need. So you know where to find us. Come see the park. It looks beautiful, and maybe you can camp with us. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
All
Take
right.
care.
Take care.
Thank you all for your time.
All right. Okay, we'll move on to the ZBO report.
You want to shut the session so you're through? You know what I'm saying?
Okay. 80 Potter Pond Road is allowed.
Yes, 80 Porter Pond Road. John did reach out to me because he was looking, Mr. I can never pronounce his last name very well, but, basically he had, reached out to, to zoning enforcement, and they were looking at, I know he had come in and talked with you guys about the, buildable polygon.
Oh, that.
Oh, Iafrate?
Yes, Iafrate, and in regards to the issue with the, basically the 150-foot rectangle, right. Well, technically, it's a rectangle, but you have to fit, it's a 150 by 150. What calls it, you have to, a minimum 150 by 150 rectangle within the 30,000 square foot buildable area. And John's conversation with him, he basically said, well, you got two avenues you could attempt, one of them being zoning board of appeals, since it is a dimensional issue. And it is a lot that technically existed prior to zoning.
I don't think so.
No,
That was a subdivision.
It is a subdivision that existed prior to zoning. Zoning came out in 2009. And it was subdivided prior to 2009.
Yeah, but not that particular lot that he's trying to
No, that
subdivide.
was.
There was two other lots that were sold prior to his ownership.
Even though.
I've been there.
Yeah, that was,
He's trying to subdivide what he has now.
David
Yeah.
Helm subdivided it when he owned it,
Right.
and then sold it to Iafrates,
Yeah.
and then he tried to subdivide it again for them, which is when this application came in, so there was a lot, but the subdivision was not.
No,
before
the lot that he's trying to subdivide, right. The subdivision application that he tried to do was after that, but the lot as it exists currently
Right,
exists
correct. That doesn't mean you subdivide.
prior to subdivision, prior to zoning. It exists currently now in its state,
Yes, which is, how many acres?
23,
15.1 plus 11.2, yes.
20-something acres.
Yeah, that's the lot.
That's the lot.
To
And that's how it
subdivide it.
existed. That's how it exists prior to zoning.
Right.
Correct?
Yes. I bet if 2009 is the date, I have no idea, but that is the lot, yes, the 27 acres.
So I believe what he's trying to do is to get a variance of the 150 dimension, minimum dimension requirement to 140
To do this new subdivision.
to do the re-subdivision for his 30,000 square foot buildable polygon.
Yeah.
Is my understanding.
Yeah, and his issue, this is all wetland. And the only-
Although
the only place to-
I remeasured it, and he doesn't actually, I don't think he needs it. Because if you look at that plan, he has a 25-foot side yard setback, and he doesn't need 25-foot side yard setback, he only needs a 10-foot side yard setback. Because it pre-existed zoning.
No, this is a new subdivision, you would have to comply with new regulations. This subdivision with this,
No.
with this buildable area would have to
No.
comply with current regulations.
No,
I don't see how it wouldn't.
because your regulations say it doesn't.
The existing lot is. That's how, that's not under question, but the new subdivision with a new building placement would fall under the current regulations. Why would it fall under old conditions? They're proposing to build a house. That would have to fall within current regulations, not old regulations.
I'm going through the same thing, Joe. My lot was prior to zoning. Right?
Yeah.
It was free, it was split prior to zoning. When I came into play to subdivide for my 2 acres, I had to comply with zoning.
Right.
And
right.
subdivision.
His application, everything
Right.
complied with current regulations,
Yeah,
so it was
You're right.
able to be approved. This
Yeah.
one doesn't,
I don't know why I was thinking
this
like
one
that.
doesn't meet the new it doesn't.
I
meet
had that
current
all in my head.
regulations.
That's a
Yeah.
little concerning, Jim.
Cause he's got a
I was
lot
thinking
going
about
on.
that all day. I was looking at it all day.
There's something else, everyone should be aware of. Way back, 10 years ago, we had the minimum buildable areas, 200 feet by 200 feet. And there was also the ability for a rectangle. And we got rid of the rectangle and we dropped it to 150 feet to make it easier for people to build. So we don't want to go back to the rectangle. As I recall, the building inspector back then was having issues with the way they were trying to build a house and the way we were trying to do things.
Yeah.
So we changed it based on his comments and recommendation. That goes back at least 10 years. So, yeah, I don't think they should be doing any sort of variance on this. This is 150 feet by 150 feet, that's it.
Well, actually, that's where the regulations are still somewhat confusing because it still says rectangle.
Our regulation says rectangle?
yes, yes, it
Yeah,
does.
it
It
does.
says rectangle. I went through that already.
It still says rectangle with a minimum of 150 by 150.
Correct.
Well, that makes it even easier, and if they can't comply with that, then I'm sorry, it's not a building lot.
So it implies that you still need a 30,000 square foot rectangle. But the two sides still need to be 150, a minimum of 150 by 150. So it's not a square that you need. You still need a rectangular shape. And both sides need to be at least 150 by 150. So if you still need a rectangle, you actually still need 150 by 200. Because that's the only way you're gonna get 30,000, right? 30,000 square feet.
Well, it could be like 160.
Right, but they both have to be at least 150 by 150.
Yeah, right, they have to at least be 150.
150.
Bigger,
Right, they can be bigger,
right. Just can't be less than that.
right,
Okay, I see what we did.
I think it's correct.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, because it's gotta be, right, 150 times 150,
There's 22,500.
right, doesn't,
Right.
but it has to be a rectangle that's bigger than that. So either one way or the other, it has to be bigger than 150, but it can't be less than 150.
You don't want something like 10 feet wide and really, really long.
Exactly.
right.
That's what the buildable area is all about, so that you don't get these weird little lots.
Weird shape.
And let's face it, the easy building lots are used up, so there's, wetlands issues and subdivision issues with odd dimensions and flag lots, and that's what this polygon is supposed to, this buildable area polygon is supposed to avoid that stuff.
Right, well, I guess I can go for a variance, but
Is that right?
I doubt if they're gonna get it. I would be surprised. Okay. Anything else that's standing out? This North Sterling Road.
Yeah, I don't know anything about any.
This was the one
But
where they're
it's like
dumping.
CEO's doing their job. So.
This is the one where they're dumping. North Sterling Road.
Oh, is that one?
I think it might be.
The New Haven, sweeping?
Yeah, whatever they're doing.
That's probably what that is.
Nothing else that seems to be standing out. Okay. Okay. Any audience comments? Okay. Okay, other business. Consider an act on boards and commission questionnaire, Peter Perillo, planning and zoning.
That's you. You want a seat? You want a seat up here? No, you have an application and to have a seat up here, that's what we're talking about.
sit up there?
No. We're talking about you getting a seat up here on the commission.
I'll see you next month.
So, I don't know if everybody's looked at Peter's, application, and, I can tell you one thing. I've seen him in our meetings now for well over a year, probably 2 years, at least. And, he keeps very good notes, and he probably has more on top of this than I have.
10 years here.
So,
We refer back to a lot of stuff that you talk about, because nobody, you know, it's like the issue we were talking about, the approval for 81. I'm on EDC, so we keep track of that with the pictures. And, so we're wondering now where we stand with that.
so does anyone have any concerns, any questions for Peter, or anything?
I would make a vote to, refer him to the board of selectmen for appointment.
Okay. So, and we should get a second and then. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, so it's now up to the selectmen. There you go.
Hi, it's Judy again. Who made the motion and who seconded?
Lisa made the motion, Steve Thompson seconded.
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Jason.
Okay, Jason, and who seconded?
Steve.
Steve, okay, thank you.
How's that work going, Judy?
We're way early in here. Thank you.
Oh, congratulations.
I will, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Regulation priorities.
Or it wasn't the minutes. It wasn't the minutes.
Minutes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get away from that.
Minutes, we didn't.
We have a list of things to discuss.
Yeah, I remember looking at that.
It's right here. It's actually in the sheet.
Oh, it's on the sheet.
At the back of it. It was a whole bunch of.
I included the list on there and I started doing a couple things to the list. I couldn't remember if the list was actually, if we put the list in any kind of an order. For some reason I didn't think we did, but then I think we had it in somewhat of an order, but the first one on the list was the accessory dwelling units one. And I believe the concern was predominantly that the way that the regulation kind of currently reads was that there's, is that it breaks the minimum, section 4.01. If the way you read it, it's really dealing with, it currently reads minimum lot area, but it's really dealing with minimum lot size. And it currently reads no dwelling may be established on any lot after the effective date unless the lot contains 1, at least 2 acres of land per dwelling unit, and 2, a building area as defined in section 4.02 of at least 30,000 square feet per dwelling unit. And then it goes on to say, no lot shall contain more than 1 dwelling or more than 2 dwelling units within a dwelling unless approved, if 2 dwelling units are constructed within a dwelling, an additional 2 acres will be required for a total of 4 acres. So what I had done is I kind of, basically all it's talking about is minimum lot size. So I kind of put together this quick little thing to just call it section 4.01 minimum lot size. And if we just remove that paragraph and just put a section that says for residential, single-family dwellings, 2 acres is your minimum lot size. For a 2-family, 4 acres is your minimum lot size, because that's what it's really saying. And that no lot shall contain more than 1 dwelling or more than 2 dwelling units within a dwelling unless approved as an accessory dwelling units under section 6.04. Because I believe the intent for accessory dwelling units was that we're not requiring additional acreage for an accessory dwelling unit.
Right.
And then for non-residential, it still is 2 acres. And they're leaving, there shall be no restriction on the number of non-residential buildings or uses that may be established on any lot, provided that all other applicable requirements of these regulations are met. I removed the section under that one that speaks to the minimum buildable area, because if you look at your actual regulations, that next section speaks to minimum buildable area. And within your regulations, the section, let me pull out their actual regs, that way you guys know. The section before section 4.0, or the section that speaks to section 4.0, actually says that section 4 applies to all uses.
Meaning residential and commercial.
Right. The dimensional requirements in this Article 4 shall apply to all uses except as otherwise provided in Article 5. So it's gonna apply to residential and non-residential. So yeah, I don't think you have to repeat it. Repeat your minimum biddable area, which is section 4.02 within section 4.01. Yeah.
What's the difference between a 2-family residence and a regular, and a single-family residence that has an accessory dwelling unit? In the same.
Your accessory dwelling is basically, and that's where, the one thing I didn't add in here that I thought we might or should add is you don't have an actual definition of what an accessory dwelling unit is. Although if you look at your section 6.05, I believe it is, it basically tells you that an accessory dwelling is it's basically an accessory use to a single family dwelling. And that's what the difference is. Whereas if you're talking about a 2-family or a duplex is 2 single family, it's meant to be two single family dwellings, so they're equal. Whereas an accessory unit, or as you call them, accessory apartments, one is definitely subordinate to the other.
Yeah.
You have a single family house, which is the primary use of that property, and you have an accessory apartment, because you only allow that accessory apartment to be up to 1,000 square feet. It is definitely subordinate to that single family. So you can't have an accessory apartment without having a single family house, essentially.
Right.
Whereas you could build a duplex and you can build 2 duplexes on one property. But you can't build an accessory apartment without having a single family apartment first.
Yeah, but aren't you limited to only 1 bedroom on that ADU, right?
Right, they're limited to 1 bedroom.
I don't think it's 1,000 square feet. Less than that,
Well,
ADU. 2-bedroom house is 1,000 square feet. Well, you can't have an ADU at the same 1,000 square feet. From what I've read, I thought it was only like 500 with 1 bedroom.
No, it can't be less than 500.
Less than
it
500.
can't be less than
It
500.
can't be less than 5, oh, okay,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right, and it can't be more than 1,000. And they'll have 1 bedroom, 1 bath, where,
Yeah.
multifamily, that can be 2, 3 bedrooms.
So the one thing I did think that may be useful is also to add maybe a definition in your regulations as to what an accessory
Yeah.
dwelling is. The only thing that I thought might be confusing, and maybe we need to, in your regulations, 6.03 refers, or 6.05 actually refers to it as accessory apartments. At the beginning, and then calls it accessory dwelling. So I don't know if 6.04, I'm sorry, if it should, for consistency, whether we should change that to accessory dwelling units, or maybe at some point, or maybe in parentheses, call it accessory dwelling unit, I don't know. So that people don't get
Yeah.
confused, if people understand that that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not exceed 1,000.
We need that definition for sure.
Yeah, standard procedure to have a definition. Yeah, well, we just add that to the definition section.
Yeah,
That wouldn't be included in 4.01, it would be in.
right, we could just add that into the,
2.01.
yes,
We're gonna call it non-accessory apartment, but accessory unit for section 6.04.
I mean, we could leave it as 6.04 accessory apartments, and then in parentheses, call them accessory dwelling units.
Yeah, something to make it clear.
Just to, so that
Yeah, to make it
it's
clear.
understood that that's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
and then in the definition, it would be ADU. you know,
Right.
Accessory dwelling unit, and then definition, which we don't have to invent, that's.
Right, there's plenty of
that's written in
definitions that are out
every
there.
code everywhere, so.
Right.
we Just, you'll, facts, copy it.
And then as we were moving down, that was, I guess, the first one under I. And then under fee schedule, that was something that we addressed last month. I did forward that on to Suzanne, who I think was gonna put that on the selectmen's agenda. And then the next one was, subdivision open space requirements. And what I did do was I printed out, just for you guys is, I know you guys don't do a lot of subdivisions. But
Big subject.
it's only a couple pages, but this is your open space subdivision. I think it had come up as a question. I know with the last subdivision that you guys had, open space wasn't an issue because you had the waiver came into play. But I think the question was, within that section, you have 8.0, which is the lead off paragraph. And what that speaks to is, it starts with dedication B, which I'm not sure, and it says, the commission may require dedication of land as open space. Which is the lead off to the section, but then if you go down, it goes to 8.4, which speaks to the open space waiver, and it's within the open space waiver that it says the commission shall require open space in all subdivisions, or shall require a fee in lieu of open space for all subdivisions. And I think that's where it kind of confused me a little bit, because underneath that, what I put for the paragraph is what the state statute basically says, which is such regulations shall also provide that the commission may require the provision of open space, parks and playgrounds when and in places deemed proper by the planning commission, when open spaces, parks and playgrounds shall be shown on the subdivision plan. Such regulations may, with the approval of the commission, authorize the applicant to pay a fee in the municipality or pay a fee to the municipality in the transfer of land to the municipality in lieu of, and the requirements to provide open spaces. So I guess, in a nutshell, the commission can require open space. So in my experience, that first paragraph, 8.0, up there is where the commission can say for example, in all subdivisions, you require whatever amount of open space, 10%, or for example, I think what you guys have is a maximum of 15% open space. You could say all subdivisions require 15% open space. That by statute you can require. But you can only authorize the applicant to pay a fee in lieu of open space. You cannot require the applicant to pay a fee in lieu of open space. That is kind of something that you can essentially say, it's almost like a negotiation between you and the applicant.
You're setting them up to negotiate.
Right, so basically, when they come in and they say to you, here's my plan, we know we're required to give you 15% open space. Here's all this crappy land over here that we want to give you for open space, and you look at it and you say,
We don't want it.
we don't want that open space.
We want money.
We don't want any of that.
Yeah, we can't do that.
We would prefer a fee in lieu of maybe open space. So you authorizing them to give you the fee in lieu of instead, because there's nothing of any value in that open space. Basically, if they give that to you, it's more of a pain for you to put any kind of restriction or covenant or be able to monitor it in any way. It's type of thing. So that's more of how I've seen it done. As opposed to where it just seems in your regulation, you have it, the way you have it written is you have it written into the open space waiver. Which it didn't make much sense to me because the waiver part is more for exactly that. It's for the waivers of that the statute allows for. The other aspect is, I think this was written in 2004, which was before you guys had zoning. One of the other things that, and I don't know if this commission would consider this or not, is there's another avenue that some towns utilize in regards to open space is they call them open space subdivisions, essentially, where, for example, you guys have 2-acre minimum lot sizes, and you only have a 10% or a 15% open space requirement, where you could say, okay, if there's a way that if someone came in and said, okay, you could essentially increase the amount of open space if it was land that you really wanted, if it was adjacent to other open space that was valuable to you, whether it be farmland that you could protect or I don't know, state forests or trails or something like that, and you really wanted to protect this open space, what they call it is I don't think you could do this before because you didn't have zoning. So you didn't actually have minimum lot sizes. You can basically provide them a smaller lot size. They call it an open space subdivision where for them giving you more open space, you can give them a smaller lot size. And they may get one extra lot out of it. There's a formula for calculating it so that instead of possibly, maybe they could originally in a normal lot or a normal yield, they may only get 4 lots out of it. If they give you a larger percentage, maybe it's I think you can only do up to like 30%. But if they give you 30% open space, they may end up getting 1 or 2 more lots because they're able to shrink their lot size down to 1 acre or something like that. As opposed to 2 acres. But they still don't end up taking, it's just, and I can get you more information on that at a later date or something. They call them conservation subdivisions. And that way you're able to reduce the amount of roads, things like that, that they may have to build, that they may eventually want the town to take over. So it may benefit them, it may benefit you, you get more open space, you may get more, but I guess it's something you don't, I've seen, it's something that Woodstock kind of did a lot of. Woodstock Building Associates probably did the most of them up in their area, and they did them mostly around farm areas.
Imagine if Econ Hill ever got sold off and developed. Those 1 acre lots instead of 2 with open space, build a chunk somewhere, put hundreds of houses.
But basically they wouldn't get, so they would get a smaller lot, but they would end up preserving larger parts of it, essentially. But
Who owns the open space when you do something like that?
Yeah.
it depends on how they do it. Sometimes the open space can be put into a land trust. Sometimes it's put in, if it's a homeowners association, it could be put into the homeowners association. It can be put into the town. It all depends on, I think your regulations may even have, I didn't notice.
So there's some options to consider with open space.
Yes.
I like keeping it simple, my opinion. As the board can be, less room for loopholes.
That's right.
Right, because I will say Woodstock got ultra aggressive at one point, where they actually required 50% at one point. For every subdivision. Wow. They required it.
On a 2 acre lot?
Well, it's for a subdivision, if it's 100 acres, they would require
Oh.
50 of it.
Oh, yeah, but what about a 2 acre lot? I mean,
Well, when it comes, these things.
They may take fee in lieu of, like, if they want,
Yeah,
they
the
required
smaller
open
subdivision,
space.
the less it's an issue.
But it would, usually they would do it
I would wait.
on only 5 lots or more, subdivision of 5 lots or more.
5 lots.
So like you guys right now, I think what I've been told is you guys require you require open space on any subdivision. So some towns will only do it on 3 lots. Right, not on ones that are family splits or agricultural, so
Yeah.
that type of thing. But some towns will only require it on subdivisions of 5 lots or more, or they'll do it by acreage. If you're not subdividing more than 20 acres, they won't require open space.
Yeah, I mean, some towns want higher density, more subdivisions, other towns don't, so that, you know, like what, we should look at our, POC.
Your POCD
Yeah,
usually,
we should look at that and see like, what is the town looking for based on, you know, what's in that document and then determine.
right, because the other aspect of it
That would be
is,
our home.
right, where is it that you're looking for open space?
Yeah, right. Off the top of my head, I have no idea, yeah, right.
Because that's the other thing that's, I mean, I work in some towns where they're, oh yeah, we want open space, and they're getting these little chunks of
Yeah,
2-3 acre things in these subdivisions. It's like, great, you just got a 1 acre parcel in the middle of this subdivision that now
Nobody
someone has to
manages it.
monitor
Right, nobody
and,
wants to manage it.
and
no one
who's
wants to
gonna-
maintain it.
and what is the point of it?
Right.
Or at least if you got a fee in lieu of, a little bit of that.
You take that
well,
money and put it into one
Right,
property and do something with it, like create a park or something like that.
I think that's what Easy Street did. They paid a fee for each lot.
I know currently you guys have like $100,000. I believe.
There was another one that I recall that they paid a fee as well. Goes back a lot.
I know that the important thing in regards to those is to make sure that those are recorded correctly. So that they're picked up, the lien is picked up when the lots are sold. Otherwise, they don't get paid and they get forgotten about.
Yeah.
How many open space we have and where it's located in town, do we have a map?
I could definitely,
I'm just.
I think there's
Um,
the POCD here,
Yeah, it might be in the P O C D actually,
there's probably.
pretty thorough.
I mean, I don't think mine is in color, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
So it's probably, I can definitely,
I have a color one, I'll look at it.
yeah, I can definitely find one and bring it in. I mean, most of it is, from the looks of it, it's all in the southern. There's a little bit in the north, but it looks like most of it's in the southern end.
What can we do with that land? What's the purpose of it? I know it's to keep open land, but what can we do with it?
I don't know that you have to do anything with it, I think it's just like keep it wooded or keep it, you know,
Farm land, whatever.
yeah,
I think it,
habitat, you know.
I think it depends on what your goal for the property is. For example, the town of, some of it is for recreation. Some might be used just for, like you said, for habitat. The town of Pomfret in 2000. I think it was maybe 2016, 2015, they went out and bonded. I think it was 2 million. Or more. To go out and purchase. They went and basically identified a bunch of different properties. That they wanted to go out and either purchase with the state or with, land trusts. And I think their overall goal was to prevent them from being developed. That was their primary goal. They picked them based on where they were in conjunction to other open space properties, whether they were next to maybe Audubon or next to the airline trail or state forest to try to make larger chunks. But also, I think, based on their vulnerability to development. And at that point, I think this was back not too long after 2008, 2010, they started looking at that, because that was just shortly after the housing. They were worried about, right? They had just had a large subdivision go in, where one of their farms got sold, and I think 40 houses went in. And they started looking at, they looked at it as an opportunity to, one, preserve open space, and two, cause it wasn't, that was when I think they adopted zoning in 2003. And then they started this aggressive open space thing in 2009.
With the changes,
But
they make a lot of sense. Anyone, any comments on them?
Yeah, I mean, I wanna go back and reread everything and
Yeah, sure, we don't have to make.
double check it against this, and
Right,
I wanna review the POCD,
yeah, POCD,
make sure we're,
one
Alignment
maintain
with
board
that.
character,
and I like keeping things simple too, so,
simple is better.
yeah. So if we can clean something up, not add too much to it, that would be, where I would wanna go with it.
so with the open space one, what I plan on doing is I can give you an example. I mean, without getting complex with, I won't go into open space subdivisions or anything like that, but just, probably give you language that just flip flops the waiver and the,
To be more in line with the state statute,
right,
I think that's probably fair.
like you said, keeping it simple but just redirecting.
Yep.
The only thing I would ask, I guess, Mike, is to get an idea of whether or not you're still looking to require open space in every subdivision, or would you just be looking at, cause, and it,
Yeah, I
it
think
says,
that's the bigger discussion.
right,
What do we want?
whether or not it would be everyone, or,
What's the goal of the town?
Right. and like you said, maybe you wanna take a look at the POCD first.
Where's the VOC? Is that posted anywhere?
Should be online.
Yeah, it's got, I'm sure it's on there again. Yeah. I got a printed copy somewhere along the line.
Because there's advantages to different,
Everyone. It's probably gonna be on home page, because Dan probably has one somewhere. That is someone, but somewhere. Someone would take it to look at it. Or just be done.
because I've seen where the people, some towns do. All right, if it's a 3 lots or more, or 5 lots or more, which is fine. But then there are some towns that do every lot, oh. Then it's based on a percentage, but what if it's a 2-lot subdivision, but one of those lots
2
is
acres, yeah.
huge?
Oh.
Do you know what
Yeah.
and you're only doing a 2-lot subdivision, but one's,
Yeah,
you're taking 1 acre out of a 50-acre.
yeah.
Or where it's, I think it's town of Eastford that does it. They do it based on either it's a 3. They have it worded so that either it's a 5 lot subdivision or a 20-acre minimum. So you could be doing, which in Eastford, there's a lot of large lots, so I might be doing just a 2-lot subdivision, but one of the lots is,
It's the same.
20
thing we
acres.
Get into with everything. It's hard to
Right.
write one regulation
that fits everything,
that fits everything. It's just- That's the hardest part of it.
or it doesn't seem right to be taking open space if I'm only doing a 1-lot subdivision.
Right.
When we review this and look at the, conservation and development and go from there. Come back next meeting to talk about it
Yeah,
again.
come up with some more info.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
You wanna roll down these other ones here? Setback, global polygon, we pretty much already talked about that.
I mean,
Creation of industrial zone, creation of village zone. I mean, we don't have to go through every single one of these. I did, after we, I think it was 2 months, I think it was a February meeting, we talked about home-based business.
Yeah.
As accessory uses and permitting. I thought about that after we left, but we can't do that, we can't even touch that. Because we don't have zones that are commercial, residential, so we can't limit a home-based business in any way, because we can't limit it by zone, there's only one zone. So we can't say you can't have a machine shop in your garage. Why wouldn't you be able to?
No, you wouldn't limit it that way.
Yeah, we couldn't limit it.
No, you have, the way that you would limit it, a home-based business, is you would limit it by. You'd limit it by what the business is, I guess. So like. The way that towns do it is, there's like a, I guess, there's your office, like your home-based business. There's like a home-based business, like for lack of a better term, a home-based business 2, and then there's like a home-based business 3. So like, there's your home-based business where you might be doing something where you're just storing stuff at home, where,
There's no public.
right, there's no big deal.
Yeah.
And then might be their home-based business where your business may be taking up more than your home. Where there's your home and then there's your business. Where it might be, where your lot might be, your primary, for all intents and purposes, the primary use of your lot might be more your business than it is your home. Where maybe that gets to the point where it's not something that is just a zoning enforcement officer sign off. Where if somebody comes in and says, hey, I wanna do a business. Is it still considered a home-based business? Or is it now something,
I don't think it
at
matters.
what point?
There's nothing in the regulations that says you can't have a business and a residence on one lot.
You can't. No, there's nothing that says you can't. The question is just how does it come through the process? That's the question. It's not saying that you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's just how do you get it permitted? Because what happens is people just don't get it permitted.
that's what happens.
And then,
Permits.
right, and then the neighbor next door goes and says, well, what are they doing over here? And then they go to the zoning enforcement officer, and the zoning enforcement officer says, I don't know what they're doing over here, and then it becomes an enforcement thing, and then the enforcement person says, I don't know, how do I deal with that?
Yeah.
Then they look at the regs, and the regs
They
say,
haven't broken a regulation.
I don't know, how do I deal with that?
I don't know how you deal with it. I don't think you can.
Eventually, was it? Are we having?
I don't know of any issue, but that doesn't mean that there isn't, but
A solution looking for a problem.
maybe.
I mean, there probably are some, I've heard some people complaining of industrial vehicles like, or in a Old Cranston Road or something like that. I mean, there might be some unique type problems like that maybe.
I don't know, I mean, what's in Sterling was the equipment, construction equipment parked on a.
Yeah, I don't even know if it really is.
I mean, it's at the bottom of the list, and I think it was
Yeah.
put at the bottom of the list because it wasn't a,
Yeah,
I think if it ever does become a problem, then we can address it.
yeah, I don't think it needs to happen with that. I don't even see what could be done anyway, but.
Okay. So, next meeting, do we wanna talk talk about the setbacks, go over this, whatever you presented tonight. And start looking at the setbacks.
So, Jim, do you have this, is this a separate Word file, or did you take like a copy of our regs and start changing it?
It is, well, it's a separate Word file, yeah.
Okay. It would be easier to keep track of things as we move forward. If we do one piece, we just stick a track change in the document.
In one document.
Yeah, and then we just, maybe, just like we, emailed the documents for this meeting, just whatever the current. Yeah, compile it all into one. That could just be our thing we work on.
Yeah. Good idea.
And then every meeting, just mail it out.
Sounds good. All right. With that, anything else?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Motion by Jason, second by Steve. Unanimous vote.
Thank you for that.
We're getting to that. Figure it out.
Have a good night, Judy.
Thank you. I will. Take care. See you next month.
Thank you.
Night.
You're done.
All right, we gotta shut this thing off.
How many boards do you have?